The kiss that changed everything. The storm hit faster than expected. Jace Wren, a human engineer, was working alone on Outpost 19, a cold, half-dead space station floating near the edge of known space. No one came here unless they had something to hide, or nothing left to lose. For Jace, it was both. He liked the quiet. No orders. No drama. Just tools, silence, and the occasional system failure to fix. But tonight, something felt wrong. The wind outside howled through the broken satellite arms. Power flickered, and then, his motion sensor beeped. Something was moving outside. Jace looked at the screen. A figure. Small. Unarmed. Breathing. Someone's out there, he whispered. No ships had arrived. No messages. No life signals. But someone was crawling through the snow dust outside the station gate. He ran to the outer bay, opened the airlock manually, and pulled the figure inside. A body fell forward, lightweight, shivering, injured. It was a girl, an alien girl. Her skin was soft blue, glowing faintly like moonlight. Her long silver hair clung to her back. Her breathing was weak, her lips purple, her eyes barely open. She looked up at him. "Help." "Me," she whispered. Then she collapsed. Jace dragged her inside, placed her on the med bed, and scanned her. Vitals. He had seen many aliens in his time, but never like her. She looked fragile, almost breakable, but there was something sharp in her aura, like a hidden blade. He cleaned her wounds, injected fluid, wrapped her in a thermal blanket. As he worked, her eyes opened slowly again. "You're safe," he said softly. "Just rest." Her eyes studied him, blinking. "You are human?" she asked. "Yes." "Name's Jace." She nodded slowly. "I am Arenya." By morning she could sit up. Her wounds had almost fully healed. Jace was shocked. "Fast recovery," he muttered. She smiled weakly. "We heal with memory." He didn't know what that meant, but it sounded beautiful. For the next few hours, she watched him work. She didn't speak much, but her presence felt calming, as if she belonged there. By evening, Jace brought her soup and a spare blanket. She looked out the window at the stars, silent. "You miss your home?" he asked. She nodded once. "But I cannot return." "Why?" Arenya didn't answer. Instead, she leaned her head gently against his shoulder. He froze. No alien had ever touched him like that. She looked up at him, her eyes glowing soft violet. Then, without thinking, Jace did something he'd never done before. He kissed her forehead. It was light, barely a second, a comfort, a gesture of peace. But Arenya's body jolted slightly, her breath caught, and then she smiled. The next morning, Jace woke to the sound of his door opening. He rubbed his eyes and turned toward the hallway. Arenya stood there. But this time she wasn't alone. She held something in her arms, wrapped in cloth. Glowing, small, breathing. A baby. Jace sat up straight. "What the hell is that?" She stepped forward calmly. "This," she said, "is our child." He blinked. Hard. "What?" She looked at him with warm, glowing eyes. "You kissed me. That is how our kind bonds. That is how we create life." Jace stood up, stumbling backward. What? "I kissed your forehead. That's not how this works." "In your world, maybe not," she said gently. "But in mine, that kiss meant unity. It completed the cycle. You gave me your pattern. I gave it life." Jace's voice shook. "That's not possible. It's been one night." Arenya rocked the baby in her arms. "In our world, time bends for birth. What takes years for others takes only hours for Tayari." He stared at the child. It was blue-skinned like her, but its eyes were green. His eyes. Jace backed away. "This has to be a mistake." Arenya looked sad. No mistake. Only fate. He shook his head. This is insane. Arenya stepped closer. They will come for me soon. If they find you here, they will kill you. Why? Because I am royal. And you are now part of me. The baby opened its eyes and looked at him. Something passed between them, like recognition, like memory, like truth. And for the first time in years, Jace didn't feel alone. He didn't feel empty. He felt responsible. The sirens outside wailed suddenly. A ship entered the system, large glowing red, approaching fast. Arenya's eyes hardened. They've found us. Jace looked at her, at the child, then at the stars. Everything had changed, and the kiss, it was just the beginning. The alien girl who called him mate. Jace wasn't a father. He'd never even imagined being one. Not on Earth, not on a dead end. Space outpost. And definitely not with a glowing alien woman and a baby who had his eyes. But now, that baby, wrapped in soft fabric, warm and breathing, was asleep on his repair table. And the alien girl who brought her? She stood across from him staring calmly, like this was normal, like this was meant to happen. Okay, Jace said slowly, pacing the room. Start over. Slowly. You kissed me. Arenya tilted her head. No, you kissed me. On my forehead. That doesn't count where I'm from. But it does in mine, she said gently. That kiss is sacred to the Tayari. It signals agreement, unity, biological permission. Permission? For what? Arenya walked to the baby and touched its tiny hand. To create. Jace sat down, completely stunned. He looked at the child again. The skin was smooth, pale blue like Arenya's, but with tiny golden veins under the surface. The hair was silver white, but those bright green eyes, those were his. His chest tightened. He wasn't ready for this. He wasn't trained for this. What do we do now? He asked. Arenya blinked. You will care for her. She is your blood. She is part of you. And part of me. Jace stared. I don't even know how to feed a baby, especially a glowing alien one. Arenya smiled. She feeds on energy. And connection. She will not cry unless you pull away. He stood up again, running a hand through his hair. This is too much. Just yesterday I was fixing broken doors. Now I'm someone's mate? Arenya looked at him softly. You are not just someone's mate, she said. You are mine. Suddenly the lights flickered. A low hum vibrated through the walls. The ship had entered the outer zone of the outpost. No ID broadcast, no welcome signal. Whoever it was, wasn't friendly. Jace's comms crackled. Unknown vessel detected. Shields up. Life signs. Tayari. Military class. Arenya's smile vanished. They found us. Who? Jace asked. My people, she whispered. They think I was taken, or worse, touched by a lower species. Jace winced. Charming. They will not listen to truth. In their eyes our bond is forbidden. And this child is a threat to the royal line. He grabbed a pack and began to move. We need to leave. Now. Arenya touched the baby gently, and it floated into the air, resting inside a hovering cradle she created from thin light. Follow me, Jace said. I will, she replied. But from this moment on, wherever you go, I go. That is the bond. He paused. You're serious? Arenya stepped closer. You are my chosen, my child's protector, my partner, my mate. He didn't know what scared him more, her calm certainty, or the fact that, deep down, he didn't want her to leave. As they entered the lower hangar bay, Jace activated the emergency lift on his cargo ship, the Seraph Ray. The baby floated beside them. Alarms echoed in the distance. Red lights flashed. Then Arenya stopped. She turned to him slowly. There's something else, she said. What now? I was not just any Tayari girl. I am of royal blood. I was meant to bond only with a chosen heir. Jace stared. So, I'm what? A criminal? In their eyes. Yes. In yours? Arenya looked at him and said softly, in mine, you are exactly who the universe sent. Just then the walls shook, the outpost's upper deck exploded. A sleek black ship hovered above the station, emitting piercing light and a voice that echoed in 3 languages. Return the girl, and the child. The human will be erased. Jace raised his gun, useless against a warship, but his voice was steady. Tell me what to do. Arenya placed her hand over his. We don't run. We fly. With one touch, she sent a wave of light into the engine core of the Seraph Ray. The ship responded, not just turning on, but awakening. Jace had never seen it react like this before. It's bonded to us now, Arenya said. It knows our child. It will protect us. They launched into space as the enemy ship fired just seconds behind them. The baby opened her eyes, and for a moment, Jace swore he heard her voice in his mind. You are not just my father. You are the one who chooses a new path. He gripped the controls tighter. He wasn't ready, but maybe. No one ever was. The hunt begins. The stars blurred into streaks as the Seraph Ray jumped into hyperspace. Jace's hands gripped the flight controls tighter than ever before. Sweat ran down his temple. He wasn't just running for himself now. He was running for her, for them. Behind him, Arenya sat quietly, holding the glowing cradle that floated inches off the floor. Inside, their strange child, barely a day old, slept peacefully. But Jace could feel it. They were being followed. They won't stop, Arenya said softly. Jace glanced back. You mean your people? They don't see this as a misunderstanding, she said. They see it as a betrayal. I was born to bond with a royal Tayari mate chosen at birth. You were never part of the plan. Jace frowned. Well, your plan kissed me first. She didn't smile. They will call you an abomination, a corrupter, and they will kill you to erase what we made. He looked at the baby, her tiny hands, glowing gently, her breathing soft, her face calm. Then he turned back to the console. Let them try. Suddenly the ship shuddered. A gravity pulse. Arenya's eyes widened. They're close. Jace checked the scanner. A signal was locking onto them, strange, shifting, alive. Then a voice rang across the communication system. Surrender the royal and the unauthorized life form. This is your only warning. Jace muttered under his breath. No such thing as peaceful aliens. He cut the comms. The enemy ship emerged from the stars like a shadow with wings, black, smooth, moving faster than physics allowed. Its weapons were charged, but it didn't fire yet. They want the child intact, Arenya said. Which gives us time. Time to do what? She turned to him. To find out why she was born at all. The ship AI interrupted. Incoming. Object detected. It's alive. A long spear-shaped probe hit their hull. It wasn't metal. It pulsed, like a heart. Then it began to melt into the ship's surface. Arenya gasped. It's a hunter's mark. It'll track us even through worm space. Jace cursed and grabbed the manual override lever. Then we break the rules. He dove the ship into an illegal corridor, a broken part of space filled with debris, radiation, and shattered wrecks from forgotten wars. No one flew here. No one came back. The moment they entered, systems flickered. Arenya held the cradle tighter. You're going to kill us both. I'm going to lose us, Jace said. The enemy ship slowed at the edge of the corridor. It did not follow. They waited, then turned away. For now. Inside the dark channel of broken satellites and silent battle remains, the Seraph Ray floated silently. Jace leaned back in the pilot's chair, breathing hard. He looked over his shoulder. The baby had awakened, and she was floating. Not in her cradle, but on her own, eyes glowing, hands spread, silent, powerful. Is she? Yes, Arenya said. She's learning. Too fast. The baby turned her head and looked at Jace. He felt something inside him stir, like a vibration in his bones. Then he heard her voice again, but not with his ears. "You're not just running. You're being called." Jace shivered. What does she mean? Arenya's voice was calm. There's something inside her. A memory. A message. Something older than both of us. Suddenly the baby touched the glass near the ship's map and a new star lit up, one not listed on any chart. A hidden system. Arenya stepped forward, whispering, "That's the source world." Jace frowned. "You know it?" "I've only heard legends," she said. "It was the first home of the Tayari, a place locked by royal blood." "She wants to go there?" Arenya nodded slowly. "She doesn't want to. She needs to." Jace looked out into the void. He had no map, no allies, no clue what waited at the source. But one thing was now clear. This wasn't just about a kiss. This wasn't even just about love. This was about destiny. And destiny wasn't waiting. It was chasing them. Secrets of the child. The child no longer cried. She no longer whimpered or cooed or fussed like a newborn. Instead, she watched, silently, carefully, like she understood everything. Jace sat across from her in the ship's quiet chamber, his back against the wall, arms resting on his knees. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe too loud. The baby, barely 2 days old, was floating again, not hovering in a cradle, levitating, completely still. Eyes glowing pale gold. A soft humming light pulsed around her skin like a heartbeat made of stars. Arenya knelt beside Jace. "She's entering the echo phase," she whispered. "The what?" he said, not taking his eyes off the child. "It's something we only read about in old scrolls. It hasn't happened in our bloodline for thousands of years." "Should I be worried?" Arenya nodded. "Yes, because she's remembering things no child should." The baby's eyes shifted from Jace to Arenya. She opened her tiny mouth and spoke a single word in a voice that wasn't hers. "Sakarain," Arenya gasped. She grabbed Jace's arm, her face pale. That name was forbidden. It belonged to the first one, the Tayari who disappeared into the source world and never returned. Jace frowned. "She's speaking someone else's memories?" "Not someone," Arenya said. "A god." The ship lights flickered again. The stars outside dimmed. Something had changed. That night, Jace tried to rest. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the baby's glowing face, her lips whispering words from an ancient tongue. A voice echoed inside his dreams, not hers, not Arenya's, but his own. "You are not the first, but you may be the last." He woke up covered in cold sweat. In the control room, Arenya was scanning the baby's blood. What little she could analyze. "The readings don't make sense," she muttered. Jace leaned over. "What's wrong?" "She's not just Tayari, or human. She's something else. Something that adapts." Jace tilted his head. "Adapts?" Arenya nodded. "Whatever you are, she didn't just inherit it, she absorbed it, she turned it into something stronger." She turned the screen toward him. The baby's cells showed patterns forming symbols, living language, written in her DNA. Jace's mouth went dry. "What is she trying to tell us?" Suddenly, the ship's AI came to life on its own. Coordinates locked. Destination, source world. Passenger override accepted. Identity confirmed. Legacy carrier. Arenya's voice cracked. "She's not just a child." Jace finished the sentence. "She's a key." They entered the star system 2 hours later. The source world wasn't on any map. No satellites, no defenses, no signs of life, just a massive, smooth silver planet, glowing softly like a sleeping giant. As they approached, the ship's systems began to shift without input. Everything dimmed, and then the planet spoke. Not through sound, but through the baby. She looked at her parents and said in perfect, human English, "We are not born, we are chosen." The ship descended automatically. Below, they saw it, an enormous gate, shaped like a blooming flower, surrounded by crystal towers. Arenya trembled. That's the Temple of Inheritance. I thought that was a myth. It was, she whispered, until she woke it up. They landed. Jay stepped off the ship, his feet sinking into soft, glowing dust. He carried the baby in his arms now, not because she couldn't float, but because she wanted him to. As they entered the temple, glowing patterns lit the walls, symbols responded to the baby's presence. Doors opened silently, and at the very center, on a throne made of light and stone, sat a figure, not living, not dead, a projection. The image of a tall woman with Arenya's eyes and Jace's smile. Welcome, the figure said. We've waited for you. For a very long time. Jace stared, stunned. What is this? The projection smiled. The future and the past. She looked at the baby. She is the first to complete the cycle, the first child born of both bloods, willingly, lovingly. The final piece. Arenya whispered. The prophecy. The image nodded. Yes, and now the cycle must begin again, or the galaxy will fall into silence. The baby looked up at Jace, her voice in his mind again. I am not the end. I am the opening. Jace stepped forward into the light. He didn't know what they were about to become. But one thing was clear. They weren't just parents anymore, they were guardians of something forgotten, something alive. The royal court demands blood. The source world didn't let them go. It released them. And the moment Jace's ship crossed back into known space, the warships were waiting. 5 of them, each flying the royal banner of the Tayari Empire, each carrying enough firepower to reduce a moon to dust. Jace stood in the command deck, silent. Arenya stood beside him, her face unreadable. But her eyes were burning. She already knew. This wasn't an arrest, it was an execution. The comms opened. This is Supreme Marshal Varain of the Tayari Crown. Surrender the traitor, the child, and the royal heir. You will not be warned again. Jace turned to Arenya. They called you the heir. She nodded once. I was supposed to take the throne next year, but I ran. Why? Arenya met his eyes. Because I didn't want to marry a stranger. I didn't want to be used. She looked down the hall, where the baby floated quietly, eyes glowing with knowledge no infant should carry. I wanted to choose. And I chose you. The Seraph Ray was boarded within the hour. They didn't resist. There were too many. Jace was separated from Arenya, chained and dragged through halls of black stone inside the royal citadel. No trial, no jury, just a sentence. He would be executed at dawn. That night inside his cell, Jace sat quietly. He'd seen war. He'd faced pirates, storms, and near death. But this stillness felt worse. He hadn't even gotten to say goodbye to the child. To his daughter. Her name hadn't even been spoken yet. Meanwhile, Arenya stood before the Elder Council, a cold circle of judges and royals in silver robes. The queen sat at the highest point, Arenya's mother. Her voice echoed across the room like ice. You broke ancient law, you polluted the royal bloodline, you let your heart guide you, now we all must suffer. Arenya stepped forward. I did what you never dared. I felt, I loved, I chose. You chose a human. No, she said. I chose someone who treated me like more than a title. Gasps filled the chamber. The queen rose slowly. Then you leave me no choice. The child must be destroyed, the human erased, the bond forgotten. Arenya's voice cracked. She carries the voice of the first one. She opened the temple. She is an accident, the queen hissed. One we will correct. Suddenly, the great doors opened, and the baby floated in, unescorted, unharmed, glowing. Her feet never touched the ground. Her eyes held no fear. She stopped at the center of the court. Everyone fell silent. Then she spoke, not with her mouth, but inside their minds. You call me mistake, but you kneel before symbols written by me. You chase bloodlines built on bones. I bring breath. The room shivered. One elder fainted. Another wept. Even the queen stepped back. The baby turned to her mother. Arenya knelt without hesitation. My daughter, she whispered, then to her father. Jace was pulled into the room, bruised but alive. She floated to him, reached out. He took her hand. The chains on his wrists shattered. The queen shouted, "This is madness. The blood cannot be." Then the walls cracked. Golden light spilled in. The symbol of the first one appeared above them, drawn in fire. A voice, ancient and thunderous, filled the space. The cycle is complete. The child is born. You may kill her, but the stars will never forget. The queen fell to her knees. Jace took the baby into his arms. She leaned into his chest and whispered, just for him, "My name is Ellaraine. I am not here to rule. I am here to change." By morning, the court was silent. No sentence was carried out, because the law had been reversed, not by blade, not by speech, but by a baby who remembered a galaxy no one else could. That night, Jace stood on a balcony with Arenya beside him. "She has your fire," he said, "and your heart," she answered. Below them, cities lit candles, not in protest, not in fear, but in hope. Because for the first time in living memory, a child had made the crown kneel. War of the Bloodlines, the baby who had once floated in silence, was now shaking an empire. Her name, Ellaraine, had spread across star systems like wildfire. Not in newspapers, not through screens, through whispers. The child speaks the old tongue. The queen kneeled before her. She walks without stepping. She remembers before birth. She is the true bond, human and Tayari, fire and breath. But not all whispers were kind. Some burned with fear, some sharpened into knives. In a secret chamber beneath the royal palace, voices gathered in shadows. They were known as the Pure Flame, Tayari nobles who refused to accept change, who believed the royal bloodline must remain untouched by lesser creatures. At their center stood Varlan, Arenya's cousin, cold, calculating, charismatic. He spoke with venom. The bond was a mistake. The child is an infection. And if we do not cut it out, the crown will rot. Around him, leaders of military fleets, governors and royal priests listened closely. He raised one fist. The queen has weakened. Arenya has betrayed us, but I will restore the blood. Elsewhere, in a distant sky garden above the capital, Jace watched Ellaraine walk across the silver grass. She was only a few days old, but she looked 5. Spoke like 20. Moved like a goddess. "She's growing too fast," he said. Arenya stood beside him. It's her body catching up to her memory. She's not learning. She's remembering. Remembering what? Arenya's voice turned quiet. Everything that was forgotten. Ellaraine stopped suddenly. She turned toward the sky and pointed. "There," she said. Jace squinted. He saw nothing. "What is it?" Ellaraine answered. "A fleet hiding in the nebula spine. 47 warships, marked with the flame." Arenya's blood went cold. "They're moving." Jace frowned. "Who are they?" Arenya didn't answer. Ellaraine did. "They're our family." In the royal court, Queen Thalia summoned Jace and Arenya. Her face was pale. "We have a problem," she said. "Your child has stirred hearts and awakened enemies." Jace stepped forward. "You mean Varlan?" The queen's jaw clenched. "He means to take the throne, and he has followers. He believes you two have corrupted our line." "And you?" Jace asked. She met his eyes. "I believe the line was already broken. You gave it breath." Later, That night a message arrived, encoded, encrypted from inside the pure flame itself. It simply read, "At dawn, the fire comes for her. Choose a side, or burn with her." They left the palace under starlight, Ellaraine in Jace's arms, Arenya walking beside him in silence. They headed for the ancient sanctuary of Vakorin, a temple that had not been touched in centuries. It was said to be protected by the first flame. Not the weapon, but the truth. They needed that truth now, more than ever. Inside the temple, the air was thick with dust and memory. Ellaraine stepped ahead of them and placed her hands on the altar. It burst into light, a circle of symbols swirled into the air. Jace shielded his eyes. Arenya fell to her knees. Ellaraine spoke. "I call to those who remember the real fire, not the one that kills, the one that creates." And the symbols obeyed. They showed her visions, images. The Tayari were never meant to rule through blood alone. They were meant to bond with humans, with each other, with the stars. That history had been stolen, buried. Now it screamed to be heard. Outside, Varlin's fleet arrived, battle-ready, armored, unforgiving. He stood at the front of the lead ship, eyes burning. This ends tonight. But in the sanctuary, something rose from the altar. A shape, not Ellaraine, not human, not Tayari. A being of pure memory. The first flame. It looked at Ellaraine and bowed. Then it turned to Jace and said one sentence. "She is not just your child. She is the heir of memory." In the sky, clouds split open, ships powered up. But inside the temple, a new light had awakened. Not to fight, to remind, to reveal the truth. And truth, once seen, can never be erased. The child who changed the galaxy. The sky split open. From the eastern horizon of the Tayari capital to the frozen moons of Dinar, every screen, every crystal feed, every transmission hub flickered, and then it began broadcasting. Not from a tower, not from a fleet, but from a temple long forgotten. At the center of it stood a girl with glowing eyes, who wasn't even a week old. Ellaraine, born of a kiss, raised by fear, chosen by memory. She stood at the altar of Vakorin, facing the sky, where thousands of warships hovered, weapons hot. One shot would end her, but not before she spoke. Inside, the royal chamber. Queen Thalia watched the broadcast, her lips trembling. In the warfleet, Varlan stood frozen before his command screen, silent. On Earth, humans gathered in silence. Engineers, diplomats, rebels, children. In every world touched by Tayari rule, the question echoed, "Who is this child?" Ellaraine raised one hand. The light of the temple rose with her. No microphone, no speakers. She spoke into the minds of billions. "You fear me because I do not fit your order. You fear me because I came from both of you. But I am not war. I am not prophecy. I am choice." The warships began to turn. Not all, but enough. One by one, captains deactivated weapons. Then they powered down engines and drifted, silent. Varlan screamed orders. No one moved. His voice had been loud for so long, but hers was louder, and it didn't come from the mouth. It came from the soul. Back in the temple, Ellaraine walked to her father. Jace knelt instinctively. He had fought so many battles, but this was not his victory. It was hers. She touched his hand. "Thank you for choosing me before I was anyone." Then she turned to her mother, Arenya. Their eyes met. No words, only knowing. Then Ellaraine stepped into the flame, the first flame, and it wrapped around her. Not to burn, to carry. Light exploded. Through the clouds, the stars seemed to pulse, and across every system something changed, not because of death, not because of destruction, but because a child who could have become a queen chose to become a bridge. In the days that followed, the Tayari Empire signed the first unity accord with humanity. Varlin disappeared into the outer rings, his fleet dissolved. The word Elleraine became a name and a symbol, painted on walls, whispered in songs, etched into rings. Mixed-blood children, once feared, were now seen as guides between species. The Temple of Vakorin reopened for all. As for Jace and Arenya, they retired to a quiet starfield on the edge of the spiral. No titles, no crowns, just peace, and the memory of a girl who rewrote history without ever raising her voice. In the final recording found inside the first flame, Elleraine left one last message for anyone who came after. I was not the strongest. I was not the smartest. I was simply born of love and a mistake. And that was enough to change the galaxy. The end.